Hello everyone, my name is Saurabh Kumar and I welcome you all to my video series of Amazon Web Service training. We are right now in part 25 and in this session we will be discussing about database. We will be discussing about Amazon database, which is known as RDS, Relational Database Service. So in this session we will be first starting with some overview of database, types of database, and thereafter we will go to the RDS. We will see what RDS can do, what kind of information can be kept there, plus the practical or hands-on on RDS. So let's begin. So first I will be starting with the introduction of database. What is database is? What are the types of database? So we all know database is something where you keep your data there, but it can be of two type. One is relational SQL, relational database, or we call it as a SQL database, where we have the SQL, and another category can be non-relational type of database, which is we call it no SQL, no SQL. So we can have a relational type of database, non-relational type of database. In relational type of database, when we talk about, it was first time developed by Edgar Code, which is from IBM in 1970. That's the first time when it was introduced or developed. So it is a most common type of database which is being used nowadays in a blog, e-commerce website, enterprise application. So nowadays you will find that 80 to 90% places everywhere relational database is being used. So users can read, write by using the SQL structure query language and command, or they can put the query or command there to do any activity like creating a new table, attaching or maybe adding or putting and inserting data into the table, fetching the data from the table. All those type of work can be done by putting some query there. So that's why it is called as a structured query language. So generally, if you are having any relational type of database, there is always a column, there is a rows, and there is also one more thing which is not null field, meaning that there will be at least one thing there which is going to be as a unique, and it will be mandatory to have the information inside of that field. It will be some unique identity which will be used to fetch the data or something from your database. Like the way when we have any website also, maybe you have seen that some of the place are having a star there, meaning that it is mandatory to have. Similarly, in your database also there will be something which is going to be unique, and it is going to be always needed there. Without putting that information in the rows or column, you will not be able to add your data. So some of the examples of relational database are, we have Oracle, we have MySQL, Microsoft Server SQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, SQLite. These all are some of the example of the relational type of database. So if you have ever used SQL, MySQL or PostgreSQL, which is in the Linux, they all are example of the relational database. Other side we have non-relational type of database. So the example of non-relational database is something like Cassandra, MongoDB, and there are many others. So these are the one of the you can say like famous one non-relational database types are Cassandra and MongoDB. So what is the major difference between relational and non-relational type of database are? We can understand by having a look at maybe a picture here, this one. If you see here, this is what the SQL database is, where the data are in a column and rows, and they are having somehow relation with each other. So whatever information are kept here, some unique ID is also being followed here, and they are having relation with each other. So by using that unique ID, you can fetch the data from wherever. But here in NoSQL type of database, the data can be stored in this format. Like here you see you have the column, but some column is having data here only, but it is not here. Some column is having maybe data here only, but it is not in other way. So this column you see we have a data here, we have a data here, but maybe some of them are blank. So this kind of data can be kept in NoSQL type of database. So generally NoSQL database works on one thing that is called as a key value. We will have a look on it later on as well, but let's try to just keep in our mind that NoSQL type of database works with the help of key value there. So the data can be into this format, like in a graph format or maybe in a hierarchy format. So these all type of data, if you are keeping somewhere, that will be with the help of NoSQL type of database like MongoDB. But if we talk about SQL database, here it is going to have some relation. Here the data will be in a column row where there will be some data which is going to be always not null. So this is what the major difference between a structure query language database and NoSQL type of database. So let's come back. Next point is category of relational database. So there are two categories of relational database also. Before we have seen that there are two type of database, relational, non-relational. In the relational database also we have two categories now. One is OLTP and one is OLAP. OLTP is online transaction processing, where this one is analytical processing. So now by the name itself it gives a clear idea that if your data, if you are planning to have a database where the data is always going to have a transaction process, like if you talk about any database server or maybe any website where you need a database server where the data is always going to have some transaction there. For example, e-commerce website where every time you have some transactions. Let's take example, like for example, there is any object, maybe there is any sale going on right now on any e-commerce site, maybe Amazon, maybe Jumia, maybe Flipkart, maybe Snapdeal. So maybe there is a offer going on. So whenever you buy a product, when it is having in an offer, you need to put some promo code. Maybe you have get a promo code, or maybe you have a any code with you which gives you some discount coupon or something. So whenever you apply that coupon and then you purchase the product, obviously this entry should go in the database that the customer has used this particular promo code or this particular coupon code to get this things at this particular rate. If somebody is not using promo code, somebody just directly buying, that information will not be added in the database. So you see here, every time the data is being in a transaction mode, it is being changed and it is being added there like that. So that type of relational database, we put them into the category of online transaction processing, where the another one is just analytical processing. Maybe you have too much data there, but from there you are just fetching the data for reporting, for analyzing data or something. Maybe you are using some app, which app is getting the data from that database. So that type of relational database, we consider it as a online analytical processing. For example, if you are working in a company, your company is having a big chart that what was the sale in last year, last to last year, then in last 5 year, and then you are using some application to fetch those data. So in that scenario, what kind of database we will be considering it? It will be considered as a online analytical processing type of database. And if we talk about large application, like those who works in a real time as well as which help you to do the analysis or reporting, that big type of application, they use the mix of both. It has both type of scenario. Some maybe things are being frequently changed also, and something is there permanent and you're just analyzing, you're just generating the report out of it. So these are the two category of relational database. We have OLTP, we have OLAP. Next point is data warehouse. If I talk about a very big company, they will not be having the sufficient resource, or they will not be having maybe proper output by just using a single database server or single type of database server. So they may use a data warehouse. You see, this is a data warehouse. This data warehouse is doing what? It is collecting the information from multiple type of database. For example, let's say that if we talk about the Sensex. In Sensex, so many things are being calculated at a time. Which product, which price, gold price is going high, silver price is going down, somebody is selling silver, somebody is buying gold, somebody is selling share in any specific private organization, somebody is buying that share. There are so many different kind of things are going, and that time single type of database or single type of information, single database will not be able to handle those all query. So we have a data warehouse which is collecting information from CRM also, billings database also, ERP also, flat files also, and so on. And these all are being controlled and handled by this data warehouse, and this data warehouse is giving us a reporting, analytics, and data mining. So the person who is working there, he is doing maybe data mining or analytic or reporting. He is directly contacting data warehouse, and this data warehouse is the one who is collecting information from different database altogether. So here we use always one thing that is called as a ETL, which is having full name extract, transform, and load. So ETL is a type of data integration that refers to the three step extract, transform, and load, used to blend data from multiple sources. So very big level of where you have data mining, where big level of data analytics or reporting if you're having, there data warehouse is being used. So what is data warehouse is overall we can call it like a central repository for data coming from various resources. It can be coming from CRM database, billing database, ERP, or any other place. It is based on OLTP transaction. It is also somehow similar to the OLTP transaction type of. Used by organization to compile report and search database using the complex query. Maybe you are searching for some information where you need some information to be coming from CRM, some information to be coming from billing, some information to coming from ERP. So we are doing analytics, data mining, or reporting directly on data warehouse, and it require very heavy resource there, meaning that big number of processor, big size of RAM and all. Now the next point is NoSQL database. If you have NoSQL database, what is that? So non-relational type of database and do not have same table and column schema like relational database. It is not having those kind of column and rows, and it is not having any mandatory to fill maybe any information. So NoSQL has a flexible schema. Its architecture is completely flexible as compared to the rigid schema offered by RDBMS. In RDBMS you first make the proper schema, a design, a table, and the information that what kind of information will be there in the table, and accordingly only you put the data. But in NoSQL you don't have such kind of condition that you have to have a special type of a schema and you have to rigid a schema there. You are completely flexible with the schema type. Then NoSQL architecture can be scaled on multiple server as compared to RDBMS, because it is not maintaining any relation with one data to another. So you can easily scale up with multiple server when we are using maybe NoSQL database server. Next point comes that we have understood about the database. So same logic applies to the Amazon now, because Amazon is having its own database that is called as a RDS. Amazon has given the name RDS, and Amazon is using this logo. So if you see this logo anywhere, meaning that it is representing Amazon RDS, Relational Database Service. So it simplifies the setup, operation, and the scaling of relational database on AWS. Why I am telling it like that? Because for example, if you want to have a database server, generally what you will do, maybe you will have a computer at maybe on premises. I'm talking about maybe you have a computer at your office. There you need to install the operating system first. On the top of operating system you need to install here the application or a product of any which can help you to run the database. For example, MySQL, MS SQL, Oracle, MongoDB, any one of them you have to install. So that is database DB. You have to install there. Then you have to create your database on the top of them, and that then you will make the table and you will manage your data and so on, right? So this one gives a little bit, you can see that, tough time for you, because you have to maintain also operating system. You have to keep doing the patching of them. You have to take care of the product key of this operating system, product key, or purchasing of this database software, so on. And plus also the power of this, because this machine is running at your on premises, so you have to take care about the cooling system, power system and all. Now if you go for the maybe instance, if you get EC2 instance on AWS, so there also maybe you will not be having worry about the power and cooling system, but you have to be worry about the operating system, because you are the one who is going to install operating system, doing the patching and all, you will be doing it. Then you have to also get the license of DB, and thereafter you will create the table, you will create the database, you will add the content. So to have a kind of freedom from this all different kind of hectic task, we can go for the RDS, because if you are using RDS, you are no longer worry about the operating system. You are no longer worry about the DB, buying DB license or patching it or doing updates. There are so many things you are not going to worry about. So that's why it is written that it simplify the setup, it simplify the operation, it simplify the scaling task also, scaling up or down, you can easily do it. Amazon RDS automates common tasks such as doing backup, it will do by itself. You don't have to worry much. Patching, it can be also done automatically. Scaling, it can be done automatically. Replication can be done automatically. So these are the main actually tasks of the system admin. If you have a database server at your premises, this is the task actually your system admin will be doing. So if this all task is going to be done now automatic, you don't need any system administrator. You don't need to pay the salary to system administrator, or maybe you don't have to have the 2-3 system administrator to work in a shift wise. It's very simple. Next point is it provides the high availability because it can be running on multiple availability zone. And the next point is it can have you can have Amazon its own type of database that is called Aurora, or you can also run different type of maybe server there, different kind of database server there, like maybe PostgreSQL, MySQL, MariaDB, Oracle, MS SQL server. These all are being supported by the AWS. So you are having maybe RDS, but you can run there PostgreSQL, MySQL also. And the one thing I would like to tell you that Amazon Aurora is actually one of the paid service. But if you are using any of these are free. So you can use, if you are having a free tier account, you can run them, you can use them for free. You can test at least with them. But for this one, event testing, it will be costly. It will be, there will be a pricing of it. So this is one of the good part about RDS, that it is giving you complete flexibility. Maybe your company likes SQL database. So no problem. You just run the RDS service and run your SQL database server there. Maybe your company likes Microsoft Server SQL. You run there, no problem. So it is compatible with all of those SQL relational type of database service, and you can run any one of them easily there. So now we are going to move to the next thing, that is why to use Amazon RDS. For example, if you are working as a system admin of a company, if your boss asks you, or maybe any colleague asks you that why we should move to the RDS, why you should use Amazon RDS. So this is the two major point you can tell to them. The first thing is lower TCO. TCO means total cost of ownership, because I have already explained that now you don't have to worry much about your power supply, you don't have to worry about your internet connection, then you don't have to worry about cooling system, you don't have to worry about operating system patching, installing operating system, managing, updating, then your database software licensing and all. So it is reducing the cost. it reduces the cost of ownership. That's the very first point, and this is the one of the best benefit we can say. So what happened because of that? That focus on development and not an administrative task. For example, if I want to start my business, and for my business, let's say that I am starting a e-commerce website. So will it be good that I am completely distracted with the other things, like every day I'm getting a message that your database is not working, your database administrator has done this mistake, or maybe your operating system need now update, so on, or maybe internet went off, now you have to look for another service provider, or power goes off and now you have to look for the generator or any other kind of resource. So my focus will be completely distracted. My business is to run the e-commerce site and sell the product, but where I am stuck, I am busy with the administration side. How I will make computer run up to 24 by 7, how I'm going to hire the employee who will be managing it, who will be taking care of it. So rather than being distracted for those other kind of administrative tasks, if you are using RDS, you will be able to focus on your development, you will be able to focus on your business. You know, there is a phrase called, like everybody say, mind your business. So that's exactly same. AWS is telling that mind your business, what you are doing. Don't worry about that, how the system will be running and where it will be running, and how the power supply will be working, how the internet will be there, working there, how I'm going to give you the fault tolerance, and so on. So you just focus on your business, you do what you need to do, you get proper database running already. That's the RDS. Second point is, it is built in high availability, because as I told you, it can be running on multiple region, multiple availability zones, so it can give you a high availability. It is cross region replication across multiple data center. It can be doing replication over the cross regions, one region to another region, it can have the replication. So even if anything goes wrong in one region, you have already the backup data, you already have the fault tolerance, you already have the load balancing. So multiple things together giving a good product, that is RDS. Next point is, because everybody like to hear that what will be the benefit of using RDS, so you can share this chart to them. Here you see, if you use on-premises database server, if you want to have a on-premises database server, all the tasks you see has to be done by you itself, because it is your on-premises. So you are the one who is responsible to run application database duty, like adding table, creating table, adding the entry into the table, deleting data from the table. Every task you will be doing. A scaling of your database you will be doing. Making it high available, you are responsible. Database backup, you are responsible. Database software patching, you are responsible. Database software installation, you are responsible. Operating system patching, you are responsible. Operating system installation, you are responsible. Server maintenance, you are the one who is responsible. Hardware life cycle, if maybe hard disk get fail, RAM is getting older, or RAM need to be updated, everything you will be taking care of. Power, network, HB, AC, cooling system, everything you are maintaining. That is what on-premises database. If you have a database server at your on-premises, everything will be done by you. So you can see that it is a hectic task. Where if you go for maybe AWS, maybe you have a EC2 instance there, and then you are installing the database software there and running there. You see all those tasks in this color will be done by the Amazon itself, like operating system installation, who does in EC2? We just select the AMI, right? And thereafter installation, who take care of? AWS. Server maintenance will be done or taken care by the AWS. Hardware lifecycle will be taken care by the AWS. Power, network, cooling system will be maintained by AWS. But other tasks you have to do, like operating system patching, database software install, data software patching, database backup, high availability, scaling, DBA duties, creating tables and all. These will be done by you as a IT person of that company. But if you go for RDS, you see, Everything is being managed by the AWS. Everything. You are only responsible for your DBA duty only. That's it. What data you want to have there, what table you want to have there, which entry you want to add there. That's your responsibility. That's it. How the data is being managed, how it will be taken backup, which kind of operating system it is running on. You don't worry about those all. So everything will be managed by the AWS. Only you do your duty of creating table, adding your entry, fetching the data. That's it. So now you can see, you can understand how the RDS can give the benefit compared to running a database server on premises or running on EC2 instance. So for example, if I'm a developer, why should I worry about those other things? I will just get the RDS and I will start keeping my data there itself, simply. So this was all about the comparison, that how the on-premises EC2 database server or RDS data server is different than each other. Now next point here is, maybe somebody may ask you that which RDS engine should I use? Should I use Oracle? Should I use MySQL? Should I use Amazon Aurora, or I use any other? So that depend on your business type. That depend on your requirement. So if you are looking for a commercial type of database, then go for the top level, that is Oracle and SQL. These are the master player. These two company, these two database is a one which is make itself like a king in that area. So you can go for Microsoft SQL Server or Oracle SQL or Oracle database, sorry. So that will be used by the commercial. If your company is commercial and they are looking for a suitable relational type of database server, you can use this, any of these two. If you are want to use open source, if you don't want to pay the money to use this service to database, you want to use something which is open source, freely available, you can go for MySQL. You can go for PostgreSQL. So MySQL can run on any. It can run on Linux also. It can run on Windows also. You can have PostgreSQL. It is generally there already with the Linux. Then you can have MariaDB. So these are the open source type of relational database. And if you want to go for cloud native means if you want to just have a database service running by the cloud itself, then you can go for Amazon Aurora. Amazon is having its own proprietary type of database that is called as Aurora. It is compatible with MySQL and PostgreSQL. So according to this, you can decide which one will be better suitable for you, which one you should use for your organization. Next point here. What about Amazon RDS backup and recovery? If I am not the responsible, like here if you see that everything backup and everything is being taken care by the AWS. So how AWS is allowing you to take the backup of it? Obviously you have to set the rules so that it will be doing by itself. So we have two options there. One is automated backup. So automated backup is something like a schedule backup. You can set a date and time or maybe frequency, that every week, every day, or every this particular o'clock you want to run the backup process. So that one you can set there. In RDS you can just set it and RDS will be taking backup by itself. You don't have to worry about it. So in automated backup retention window per instance, and it can be by default 7 days, but you can change it. You can keep maybe 3 days, you can keep maybe 10 days, 20 days, whatever is suitable for your organization. Then by default it keeps that backup up to 35 days or until unless the instance is not deleted. That backup will be there. So either 35 days or either until unless the data, the instance where the data is stored, where the backup is stored, has not been deleted. Next point is, it is good for disaster recovery. Maybe if any time disaster happens, maybe you lost your original database or original data, you can use this backup to restore your data. So that is one type of backup, automated backup. Second is manual backup. You can also take the manual backup. Maybe today itself, right now I want to take a backup. So what type of backup I have to go for? Manual. Maybe scheduled, I have said that every Saturday there will be a backup, every Friday there will be a backup. But today is Thursday and I want to take a backup right now. So what type of backup I have to go for? I have to go for manual backup. So manual backup we can take by using the AWS CLI command line interface, also through AWS console, the one which we use always, or either you can also use AWS RDS API. If you are accessing through the API, therefrom also you can take the backup of it, manual backup of the RDS data. This one kept until you delete them. So this one is not auto deleted. This one will be there until unless you don't delete it manually, because you have taken this backup manually. And this is good for checkpoint also. Like if you guys have ever worked with the VMware or Hyper-V, you know this term snapshot or checkpoint. So what does it mean? It takes a condition, it store the condition of your resources, your data, your machine state, and whenever you want to come back to that state, you can restore from that snapshot, that checkpoint. So this is the same option available there also in AWS. They give you an option to create a checkpoint, and this is checkpoint option is good. For example, today in evening maybe I'm planning to do some change in my database, but I am fearing maybe what if something goes wrong, what if maybe the change which I am planning to apply will not be good, maybe it will be giving me some error. So before I do the change, what I can do is I can take a snapshot, I can take a checkpoint. Maybe right now I first take checkpoint and then I start doing changes in my database. If everything goes well, then fine, good enough, we are happy to continue. If something goes wrong, if something happens which I was not expecting, then I have an option, that is checkpoint. I can revert back to that checkpoint. So this is the two type of database backup methods are being supported by AWS. One is automated, where you just set the date and time or frequency, and one is manual, which you take manually, like snapshot, like checkpoint, or by taking backup through the AWS console or CLI or through the API. Now we are moving to the hands-on lab. Now we are going to see it practically, that how to use RDS. Okay, so for that, let us go to the browser. In the browser, I'm going to log in with my AWS. So we are going to follow some steps here. These are the steps we are going to follow. First task I'm going to complete, that is creating or configuring RDS. This is the first task. Let me show you how to do it from the AWS Management Console. So very first task we are going to do, that is RDS. So let's go to service, search for RDS service, managed relational database service, click on it. So here, once we reach, it is going to give me a kind of dashboard, which is going to show me how many database instances we have, how many parameter groups we have, option group, DB cluster, how many we have. All the lists are here. So let's go to database, and we see right now there is no any database is there. So we are going to create a database. You can create one also from dashboard. Here is the option of create database, or you can go to database, because here it will show you also if there is any existing database. So we are going to follow the first process, that is for creating a database. So click on create database. Now first question comes that choose a database creation method, a standard or easy. So a standard will give you set all the configuration option, including one for availability, security, backup, maintenance, everything you will be setting. Means if we go with this step, we will be setting everything there. But if we go with easy creation, it use recommended best practice configuration. Some configuration option can be changed after the database is created. So it will be taking some default option and database will be created, which you can later on change it. So let me go with the standard because we will see more option there. Thereafter, when I scroll down, here you see engine option. That is what I was asking you. That is what I was explaining to you also, that RDS supports all different type of database engines. It support Amazon Aurora, which is its own proprietary type of database. It support MySQL. It support MariaDB. It support PostgreSQL. It support Oracle also. It support SQL also. So maybe you are already having a company which is running already the database server on SQL, and you want to maybe migrate from your on-premises database server to the RDS. No problem, because RDS also support SQL server. Maybe your company was using PostgreSQL, you can easily migrate. Or maybe if your employees are good enough to work on MySQL, no problem, go with MySQL. So I'm for this practical, maybe I'm also continuing with the MySQL here. So I choose MySQL. It is free. It is version MySQL is actually open source, so you can use it for free. So I go with MySQL here. Then I scroll down. Here it is just telling me that because I have used MySQL, it is asking me to choose the version of MySQL, because MySQL is also available in multiple versions, like the way when you are installing Windows, you have version Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1 or Windows 10. If you are choosing Windows Server, you have the version, right? Similar to that, here is also having a version. So if you click on it, these are the some old version. So maybe if you want to continue with the old version, choose. Otherwise, if you go with the default, it is going to be with the latest one. Thereafter, the next option is template. Which type of template you are looking for? Production, development or test, or free tier. So organization, if you're working with any company, you will be continuing with either production or either for test. For us right now, because we are just want to have this service to test, and we don't want to pay any money to use it, this service, we will be going with the free tier. So it will be giving me RDS free tier to develop new application, testing existing application, gain hands-on experience with RDS. So that is what we are looking for, not so hands-on experience. We want to do practical on it, right? We don't have any big company where the too many data will be there and I will lose the data or something. So I can go simply with the free tier. So I choose the free tier from the template side. Thereafter I scroll down. Now it is asking me DB instance identifier, because we are creating a database. So there has to be a name. There has to be an identification of that database. So what identity you want to give to your database? By default, it has taken name database -1. Are you okay with this name? If yes, then don't change it. Continue. If you want to give your own unique name, you can give, no problem. For me, I am continuing with the default name, that is database 1. Thereafter, let us scroll down. Now, because we are creating a database, so obviously we require the authentication, and for authentication we need the user and password. So here is the default user, admin. Do you want to continue with the default user? Then leave it. Don't change it. If you want to change, please type it here. So I'm going to leave again default. So my username to access my database will be admin. And what password? Do you want to have auto-generated password? Check this one. Or if you want to set manual password, this is the option to check or set a password. So let me go for the manual. So maybe I set a password here. So this username and this password will be required whenever I want to access my database. This username and the password which I have set will require to access my database on RDS. Let's scroll down. Database instance size. How big database you are willing to have? So obviously if you are working for a big company, you may go for a standards classes. If you go for very big level company, enterprise level, you can go for memory optimized type, R type, X type, where you will get very fast RAM, very fast execution process and all. Or if you want to just go with the bus table classes, which we are right now going to use because we are running on T2 micro, that's our instance size. So we will go with db.t2.micro. So it will create just a T2 micro type of instance, which will be just having one virtual CPU, 1 GB of RAM, and no ABS optimize at all. So I can go with this one. And right now, because I have used free tire, this is what I am also going to get here. So let me continue with this size. Now scroll down. A storage type. What type of hard disk you want to attach with it? So I can go with the general purpose SSD, no problem. I don't want IOPS. IOPS is used for high input output. So for me, I'm okay with general purpose SSD hard disk. Allocated storage. How much size you want to give to this database? So obviously depending on your company requirement, here you see minimum you can give is 20 GB, maximum you can give up to 16,384 GB. So for me 20 GB is even more than enough, because we are just going to create a small table for testing purpose. We are not going to have any big data there. So let me continue with the 20 GB size, and here is the auto scaling. It can go automatically more than that. So what is the limit you want to set for the auto scaling? Maybe I want to give 21. That's the minimum. Meaning that if 20 is not sufficient, what will happen? It will automatically scale to the 21. It can go more, but it will not go beyond 21, because that's the maximum storage threshold I am setting. Next is connectivity. This is really important. We guys have learned already about the VPC. We have already learned about the subnet and all. So this is what we have to set here. Which VPC you want to attach it with? So I am going to choose default VPC, because I don't have any separate VPC for this. If you have ever created separate VPC, maybe you have one instance connected to a separate VPC, and this database server also you want to connect with that VPC, you will be choosing from here that VPC name. For me, I have only one VPC, that is default one. Thereafter, scroll down. Let's go to additional connectivity configuration. In additional connectivity configuration, by default, it is going to choose a subnet group. So again, it is default VPC. I don't have any other VPC. This area, keep in your mind. If you want this RDS to be accessed on the public network, anybody can access on the public network, like even I can access it from my computer, local computer, through the public IP address. I have to allow it. I have to say public access yes. If I say no, no means it will not be accessible over the public network. Only the local computer, maybe within the same subnet, within the same VPC if you have, they can only access this database server, but nobody from outside will be able to access it. So for me, I'm going with the yes, and then I scroll down. VPC security group. We already know what is security group is. We create it, right? So let me go with the default itself. Default security group. That's what I'm going to choose. So again, I choose default. Just a moment. It is failing here. So I choose here default. And now here, once I choose default, it is going to show me here default. So once it is already choose, VPC security group is default. So you know security group means what? Where the ports are allowed or denied. We don't even say deny, sorry. By default, all ports are denied. Once you go there and you allow any port, then that will be allowed. So if I'm setting default, what will happen that connection will be having a problem. I have to go to that security group and I have to allow my SQL port. But anyway, that task I'm going to do later on. So let me continue with the default here. Availability zone, I want to go with no preference, means I don't want to define which availability zone I want to keep it. Then this is the port number, you see. This RDS is going to use port number that is 3306. Thereafter, let's scroll down. The authentication will be done with the help of password, and I have already set the password. Then scroll down, everything is going to remain like that. Click on create database. So this is the step we follow to create a new database on Amazon RDS service. If I take a little bit right side, you can see here the status. It is telling me creating. Then it will be showing you backing, and thereafter it will become available. So until unless it doesn't become available, I will not be able to use this database. So we have to wait for a moment to become it available, or maybe we can minimize this screen and we can continue doing the next task. Next task, my plan is to have maybe SQL workbench. Workbench is what? It is going to give you just an interface at your local computer, where from you will be able to manage, you will be able to do the customization in your database, which is stored on RDS. So let me follow that step to get it done. So to manage that RDS database, I can have any workbench running on my local computer, maybe on my this laptop, or maybe let me use any of the VMware computer, so that it will be easy for you to understand. So this is maybe my one of Windows 10 machine. I just power it on. It can be any Windows machine or anything, or even if you have Linux machine, you can perform this task. Again, I'm repeating why I'm going to this Windows 10 machine, so that I will install here the workbench of the MySQL, so that I will be able to do all the tasks from this Windows 10 machine, but my data will be stored where? On the RDS. So this machine is still getting ready. Meanwhile, we can check the status of our database, where it is. So still it is showing me creating. I can refresh to. So it's still showing creating. It may take like 5 to 10 minutes to get it done. So rather than waiting for it, we can just continue with our task, that is our Windows 10 machine. So I haven't done anything till now on this Windows 10 machine. I have just started it, and this machine I will be using. But I wanted first to complete this task, so that it will be easy for you to understand. So let's just wait for a moment to get it done, and then I will continue. You can see now the status has changed to the baking up. So when it is showing you baking up, meaning that it may take now maximum hardly 1 to 2 minutes, and then it will become the available. So now we can see the status has changed to available, meaning that our successfully database has been created with the name database 1. You see here database 1 is created. Now we can get some detail about this database. So the name we have given is database 1, role is instance type, engine I'm using is MySQL, it is located in region availability zone US is 2B. The size I have used is T2 micro, so you know T2 micro means 1 GB RAM or 1 virtual CPU. Status is available. Right now CPU and current activity is blank, nothing. Maintenance is still 0. It is connected with my VPC, default VPC, and right now it is not working on multiple availability zone. So that is all the detail of this database. You can click on it also to see the detail of it. So here you see the summary of this database. Right now it is not showing any utilization or something. Then we have the detail of it. This is the endpoint. This is one of the important thing. If you want to connect with this database, no, this is the URL which we will be using to connect with this database. Networking, it is telling me that it is connected to the availability zone US is 2B. Here, this is also important point. Public accessibility I have made yes, if you remember. So that's why we will be able to access it publicly anywhere from the internet. Wherever the internet is, anybody can access it until unless they know the right URL, right username, right password. Certificate authority is RDSCS 2019. Certificate authority date is this one. So this is the date and information about the connectivity and security related information about our database. Monitoring related things are here, CPU utilization and all. Right now it is not showing anything. Then we have log and events. So this way we can check so many number of things about our database which we have created. Now to access this database or to work on this, we need another machine where from we will be accessing it, we will be connecting it, and we will be creating the table there. So for that we are going to this next task: install MySQL Workbench on any of the Windows or Linux machine. If you have Linux machine, you can run there also. If you have Windows machine, you can run there also. For me, I am continuing with the Windows machine, so I am going to Windows machine, any of the Windows machine, and I need two things there: Visual C++ redistributable. So if it is already there, then okay. If it is not there, I have to download and install. Here is the link by which we will be able to download this. And then we have to download and install MySQL Workbench. You can search simply on Google and you can download and you can install. So this is the two tasks I need to do on any of the Windows machines. So for me, I am going with my VMware, where I have one of Windows machine, Windows 10 is running. So let me go there. On this machine, what are the two things I need? So let me copy those two things from my physical machine to it, because I have already downloaded, so I don't have to waste the time again to download it. So I go to my software list. I have downloaded them, these two. One is MySQL Workbench and one is C++. So I go to the Windows 10 machine, and here I am going to install. So first thing I am going to do, that is paste. Now let me make it full screen. So once I make it full screen, here from we will be able to perform the task. So what we are going to do, very first task is installation of this Microsoft Visual C++, because without this MySQL Workbench will not be able to install. So first please install this one. Once it will be installed, now we are moving to the second one, that is SQL installation. This is MySQL Workbench only, it's not SQL Server. So we just go with the default setting, install. So once it will be installed, it is already going to pop up a message that do you want to launch it or not. Even if you close it, you will be able to see it there in a start button. So if I will come here, I will be able to see there MySQL Workbench. So I can open from there also. But let's just wait for a moment to get it complete. So this Workbench will be doing nothing else. It is going to help me to connect up to the my database server. So launch, finish. Once it is going to be launched, we are going to have a need of three things to connect our database. The URL, I told you already where from you can get that URL. That will be the host address, and then the username, and then the password. These are the only three things we will be needed. So here, once the Workbench opens, we can go to the option here called database, connect to the database. So you remember where is our database? It is on AWS RDS. So click on connect to database. It is asking me your host name, your username. So I'm going to put here the host name, which I need to copy from the console. So if I go back to that, I go back to the console of RDS, we go to the database, and here scroll down, this is the URL. It will be having always name of your database dot some information dot your region name dot amazonaws.com. So please copy this one, and this will require port number 3306. So that is the default port. I haven't done any change. So when I come back to this Windows 10 machine, I will be putting here the host address, that's the the one which we have copied. Port number 3306 is by default there, so I don't have to do any change. The username, if you remember, it was admin, not root, so I use admin, and then I just click on OK. It will start trying to connect with it. If it gets connected, if it get in touch with that, it is going to prompt me for typing the password. For me right now, I am expecting that it should give me an error. So let's just wait for a moment and let's see how it is going to happen. So here we see what is happening now. It is giving me an error that your connection attempt failed for user admin to MySQL server at database this. The reason behind is that, as I was telling you, I am expecting some error here, because for us what we have done is we have gone with the, let me show you what is the reason why we are getting this error. So reason behind getting this error that we are having a database, that's okay. This database is connected to which VPC security group, default security group. So if you click on that security group, if you go to that security group, you will be able to see that this is the default security group. So by default, what happened in security group? Everything is blocked, right? Everything is denied. So if I check in that security group, I go to inbound role, I see all traffic, all range are allowed, but if I go to edit, I will be able to see easily here. All traffic is allowed but for custom, and it is not set even anything. So that's why it is getting fail. I am not able to get up to there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a rule in my default VPC for allowing the database communication. So for that I click on it and I look for MySQL. MS SQL. So I have to look for MySQL. This one. MySQL. It uses port number 3306. And I'm going to allow it from anywhere, and then I click on save. So once I have added this inbound rule in my security group to allow MySQL, then only somebody can connect up to my SQL. So because of that I was getting error. So now let's come back here again. I repeat the step: database, connect to database. Here I need to paste the address, username is admin, and try with OK. Now we are requesting at 3306 and this port is now allowed at my AWS side. So this time it should work and it should ask me for the password. So now it is trying to connect, and if it gets connected, it is going to prompt me to type the password. And if I type the correct password, it is going to give me the console where from I can manage my database, where from I can create, delete, add, do whatever I want to do in my database. So it may take some time depending on the internet speed and all. So let's just wait for a moment, and here you see it is asking me for the password. So I type the password which I set while configuring RDS and click on OK. So it is telling me SQL editor instance for this is going to open and should be available in a moment. Just wait. So currently you see here there is no any database is attached, but once it will be connected, it is going to show me the detail of that. So it is still working on it. Let's just wait for a moment. It may take like few seconds, not more than that. And once we will get that console, we will be able to easily execute our query and everything. We will be able to monitor also the SQL server there, and we will be able to create tables. We can do whatever we want to do on it. Okay, it is again giving me an error. Your connection failed for user admin to this. All right. Let me just verify once again. what can be the issue. So check here, this is my security group. On the security group I have already allowed for any IP version 4, any IP version 6 is allowed to attach with the MySQL. That's the default security group. ID is C61. Alright, what about in my RDS? Let us just check in RDS side, is it attached to the same VPC or not. So here we go to the databases. Meanwhile, let me keep my VPC open in a new tab. So we have our database there and it is available, CPU and all it is showing me right now. Everything looks okay. It is connected to VPC AOE. I think it is something different. What is here the security group is? Let me check. But this is telling me, sorry, VPC, no? Security group. I have to check for security group, not VPC. So I go to database there and we check for security group. Yes, that is C61. That's all okay. So the default one is 6C1. That's the default. If I check there, I have added the inbound rule. MySQL is allowed. So everything looks okay. Maybe just I have to refresh and try once again. So here I copy again this endpoint. Let me just check. Copy. Then I go to the Windows machine where from I am attaching. Connect to database. I type the address here. Username admin. Click on OK. Let's try again. Now it is asking for the password, so I type the password. Click on OK. So we can see now it has been connected and it is showing me some detail of that. Here it has been connected to it, and if I maybe make it full screen, you see it is connected to my RDS database server. I can click on server status. So if I click on server status, it is going to give me the status of my server. It is a bit slow because of the internet speed maybe. So now we will be able to see here the status, server status here. So if I make a bit this one in the right side, you will be able to see from here it is running, server status is running, CPU load you can see, traffic you can see, key efficiency, selects per second, DB buffer usage, all the details, monitoring you can do from here from the server status. And we will be able to run any query on it. Simply data export, data import, restore, status, system variable, users privileges, everything. It's like your studio of SQL where from you can manage your complete database. So now we will be able to manage everything from here, but actually the database is where? It is on Amazon RDS, not on this Windows machine. So let's test it also by creating maybe some next task. So maybe if I go with the next work, let me show you from here. So let us follow now the next task. We are done with creating and configuring RDS on our AWS Management Console. We have a window machine at our on-premises, local premises, where we have installed the Visual C++ and MySQL Workbench, and then we have connected that Windows machine to RDS by making allow in the security group. So now we are going to follow this step. We will create a database, we will create a table, we will insert some value in our table, and we will also verify it. That will be our next task. So creating table, database, value, these are the commands you can follow. So if you want to write down the commands, you can write from here. Otherwise, I'm already going to execute those commands. So you can pause anytime the video and you can be able to have a note of it. So let's follow this. First, we will create a database, then we will create a table, and then we will insert some value. So let's follow the steps here. So we go to our Windows 10 machine where from we are accessing. We go to here query, this query option, and we are going to execute query from here. So very first query I would like to run here, that is to create our database. So the query I have to type here, that is create. Good part about is that if you type even few, it will be giving you already the hint. So you click on it, create a space, what you want to create. So I want to create maybe database. So create database and give any name to the database. What name you want to use? So maybe I want to create a database with the name of Saurav CRM or Saurav DB. And then you have to end always with this, so that it assumes that your command has been completed. So now we have just typed the command. To execute it, what we have to follow? We can select the command and we can click on this button, execute the selected portion of the script. So click on it and here the output action will be showing. So let's just wait for a moment. It is running, the query is running. The output will be showing here, either successful, either error, anything happens that will be displayed here. So let us just wait for a moment, and if it is done, it will be giving me a green color message that your database has been created. We can type multiple commands also at a time, and we will be able to select them all. But these all tasks, actually creating database, creating table, inserting data, is not IMS teamwork, the one which we are learning being a solution architect. Your task is just to have the, actually it is asking me re-password. So let me put once again. Then it will be able to execute. So our task was only to create RDS and connect it with the local machine, so that now the developer can sit on that local machine and he can use our database. That was our task. Whatever now we are going to do by like creating database or something, that is task developer does. But just for testing purpose, we are doing it. So we don't need to be very expert in this task, but I'm just using some few basic commands which can just give me some output to show you. So we are done with creating database. You see here, create database Saurav DB is done. One row affected, it is added. That's it. So our database is there. Now once the database is there already, now we can go inside of that database. So let's go to the second line and we type the command use. What you want to use? Use. I want to use my database. So the name of the database is Saurav DB. Again this one. So use Saurav DB means I want to go inside of this database. Once we are already inside of that database, so to run this again, what we have to do? We have to execute this query. So now we are in use of this database. Now we are there inside. So we are inside already the database. Now we can create the table, we can add the content and all. So let's create maybe a table. So I am going to create table and give any name of the table. Maybe I am giving the name of table, that is AWS class maybe 01. This is maybe my AWS class 1. So I'm creating a table for you guys, AWS class 1 maybe. Thereafter, next I'm going to put here the information related to it. So I'm going to put in the bracket, I will be adding here a student underscore ID. I want to have one column of your ID. Then this will be my int type of data, int primary key. This will be my primary key. Thereafter, we have a student name. I want to have maybe a student name there in my table. Second column, that is a student name. And this student name, what kind of information somebody can put here? So that can be any variable character, varchar. And maybe the size I want to go up to 40. So I use here 40. I want to also add one thing, that is maybe not null. Obviously in my table I don't want to allow anybody to add an entry where the student name is not there. Thereafter, I want to add something more there, that is maybe payment status, for example, maybe, or maybe let's say that roll number, or let's continue with the payment itself, payment a status maybe, or maybe fee pay, anything. Let's say that maybe fee paid. I want to only use here decimal value, and I want to give here 6, 2, so that 6 character altogether, 2 out of after that. Then not null, this one also. Thereafter, maybe I'm going to close this one, and let's try to execute this task. Let's see either it is able to create the table or not. So let's click on execute the task. Here you see create table is done, where this table is having rows of a student ID, a student name, and fee status. 3 will be there. If you want to test it also, you can run you can execute the next task, that is describe your table name. What is your table name? Is AWS class 01, or we can just execute it like direct also. Just select execute, so that it will show me either that really the table has been created or not here in a graphic way. Describe command generally we use to fetch the data. So fetching, it is fetching the data about the table. You see here, yes, it has created a table where we have the fields of a student, and the type it is going to use int, null is no for this all, and here a student name, fee paid. So these are the 3 type of fields I have made in my table. Now let's try to add some information there. So to adding the information, let's continue. Let's try to add maybe some information of some student. So I say insert. What I want to insert is insert into my table name AWS class 01. What I want to insert there, that is a student ID. This was one field. Second field was a student name. Then the third field was fee, a status or fee paid. Thereafter we close the bracket, and now we are going to put the value for it. Value. So maybe the student ID, I want to give any number, that is let's say that I want to give 01 or 001, any. So that will become the student ID. What name of the student you have? So maybe my student name is John, and the name has to be always in this format. Sorry. John, like this. Thereafter after the name we again put the comma. Now we are going to put the payment, fee paid. Maybe this guy has paid, let's say that 5000 INR. So I will just put here, let's say that 5000, or maybe he has paid 8000. So I will put here 8000 dot 00. That's the paise, that's the INR, rupees and paise. And that's all. That was my entry which I want to insert. So I will close the bracket. I will add like this. And now we are ready to add this information. So we can select this entry. We can select this script. We can execute it and insert into AWS. It has been added successfully. If you want to test it, let's test also. So testing it, we can use the command select a star, means everything I want to display from my table. Which table? From my table name is AWS class 01. Let's select. Let's try to execute. So it is going to show me here graphically that the entry is there. A student ID is 1. A student name is John. Fee paid, he has paid 8000. So this way we are going to have the relational data maintained there on RDS. If you want to have now any new entry, now it is very easy. Let me close this output. Maybe I want to add a new information. I can simply copy it also, and I can use it here, paste, and I can change only the value. Maybe this guy has paid only let's say that 75,000, 7500 maybe, or let's use maybe 750 only. Let's keep it like that. Then the name of this guy is maybe Paul. I have to again actually use this method here. No problem. I'm going to just type it once again. But here the value is supposed to become, the better idea is always what I use is I copy it here. I go to the notepad. Paste it there. Do whatever you want to do, change. Maybe here you want to have 7000. Here you want to have name that is Paul. Here maybe the student ID for this guy is 2. Then if you want to add something more, copy. Let's paste here. This guy has paid maybe 9000. His name is Alex. His ID is 3. So I can simply do like this in my notepad, copy. I go here, delete this line, paste it here, and then I select these 2 lines which I want to execute. Let's try to execute here. So once it is executed, we can now again execute this task to see the result. And you can see now we have 3 entry, 1, 2, 3, John, Paul, Alex, 8000, 7000, 9000. So this way we are now able to use our database which is stored on RDS. So that is what I wanted to show you from here. So now what we have understood overall here, that we are able to use, this is the command maybe in case if you need it. So we are having a Windows machine here, maybe in on our on premises, where I'm just running Workbench, but our database is actually RDS is running on AWS infrastructure there. I am just having a connection, I'm executing the query here, and my data is being stored on the RDS, Relational Database Service on AWS. So that was all in this particular session. We have talked about Amazon RDS. We have seen what are the benefit of using RDS, how it is better to use, and where we, in which scenario do we use it, and all those kind of information, how to configure it, how to connect it, how to add the data over there. That's all. Okay, so before we finish the session for today, one more thing I would like to tell you, that because it is going to be charging a lot if you keep it running like that. So better idea is, if you are doing it just for practical, not for your company. So before you sign out or leave your practical like that, better idea is go to the database and don't forget to delete it. Otherwise it will be making a good charge on your account, your AWS account. So I will be going with it, and I am going to select action, delete this database. Now it requires just a message here that is delete me, and then please delete it. It is just telling me cannot create snapshot, because a snapshot with the identifier database 1 is already exist. I have already created this same name database before, that's why, but no problem. So it is going to get deleted. Just we have to wait for a moment. Deleting may take some time. It may take like 10-15 minutes. So after that time, if you come back here, you will be able to see that this database has been deleted. We can again try for it. So this, let me just give any other name to this snapshot so that it will be deleting fast. Delete me, because I created already before also this database, so the snapshot was already having the same name. So let me use different name, then I try. Now it is going to start deleting process. So in progress of creating a final snapshot, then retaining automated backup and deleting database. So now you can see it is being deleted. After 10-15 minutes, if I come back here and see, there will be no any database remaining at all in my account. So I will not be charged for it. So that's all. That's all in this particular session. So that is all in this video, guys, and I hope this video was informative enough for you all, and I would like to thank you for watching.